everyone, it's Enjoy English School. I'm Chris Gorski.
大家好，我是 Bernice.
And today, we have a really interesting history article today. The Chernobyl Exclusion Zone.
各位同学一听到这个想说，哈，这是什么东西？好，讲的是车诺比，好，这样子的一个禁区，排除在外的一个区域。
So today we have a story that is super interesting. The vocabulary is a little difficult, so it's a very good idea to pause your video if you can, and check your vocab first. This is a great article where we look at our vocab first, write it over the keywords, and when you're reading it, you're going to have a really good story where you're going to learn about a really big historical event.And you won't have to worry about the scary vocab.
对，我们今天虽然要读的是跟历史相关的，所以单字可能会有一些难，可同学你可以 pause， 所以看到我跟 Chris 老师会这样就停在那边，然后你要做的是写笔记，你不是在那边偷看我们这样子哈但是呢可以学到很多的东西哦。
Yeah, so let's get ready for paragraph 1.
The Chernobyl Exclusion Zone.The Chernobyl nuclear meltdown holds a special place in history as one of the worst disasters ever caused by human activity. The nuclear plant at Chernobyl was built to produce electricity for the area and ran successfully for almost 10 years. In April of 1986, operators made errors while performing a safety test.And one of the nuclear reactors exploded. The authorities immediately tried to keep the event quiet. So, the people of the area were not well informed about the dangers of the radioactive material that had been released. Thousands of people were eventually removed from the area. The Ukrainian town of Pripyat was the first to be moved out.People living there were told to pack enough for just a few days and to leave their pets and animals behind. Sadly, they were never able to return due to the high levels of radioactivity. The entire area became a deserted exclusion zone, with no human activity except for the workers there to repair the plant.In the months after the incident, the damaged reactor was closed off in a protective concrete building. The Chernobyl plant continued to produce electricity until the year 2000. Cleanup is expected to be completed by
2065.All right, let's jump right into our subtitle today, The No Man's Land That is Home to Man's Best Friend.
好，所以这是一个 No Man's Land， 是一个无人之地，可是它却是人类最好朋友的家。
Okay, so no man's land comes from World War I. And think like when you watch like a movie. Over here you have an army and they dig a hole and they hide in it. Over here they have an army, they dig a hole and hide in it. And they'll stand up and shoot at each other. And sometimes these people will stand up and run over here and try to jump in.This place in the middle is very dangerous. It's not their land. It's not their land. It's no man's land. Wow. It's the very dangerous place in the middle.
OK, 所以在第一次世界大战发生，两边的军队中间这一块就是无人之地。
That's right. And when we say man's best friend, that's very clear. This means the dog. That's right. Underline man's best friend and just write D-O-G. It means the dog. Our first sentence says, the Chernobyl or Chernobyl nuclear meltdown holds a special place in history as one of the worst disasters ever caused by human activity.
Wow, 他说这个车诺比的核灾呢 nuclear 就是核子好的这样的一个 meltdown 呢，就是指这个灾难呢，其实它占据一个非常非常特殊的地位在这个历史上面，因为它曾经成为呢世界上面呢唯一一个很多之间里面其中有一个呢最严重的这样的一个 disaster 这样的一个灾害 ever 曾经以来，然后呢它导致的这个造成的原因呢是 which was caused 被谁呢？被人类的活动。
Oh man, we have 3 great words in this sentence, and 你可以很口语用它们. So the first word is nuclear, okay? And we know nuclear about like 原子弹怎么样怎么样, but someone can also go nuclear. When someone goes nuclear, it means they get super angry. Not a little angry, but like screaming and yelling angry. This person goes nuclear.
就跟 go bananas 是一样
Yes, exactly right.
就是你很生气的时候，你要尖叫大叫的时候，你就可以说到 go nuclear. Right?
Our next word is to melt down, okay? So when we melt down, think of like a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, like a little brother or a little sister. And sometimes they cry and they're angry about something really stupid and they won't stop crying and they're laying on the ground and throwing themselves. That is to melt down.
OK, 好，所以老师解释得非常清楚了。
And then lastly, a disaster. We can say something that is very, very bad. So we can say, hey, Bernice, how was work today? Well, at work today, everything was bad. It was really bad. So Bernice would just say, it was a disaster.
所以这个 disaster 不一定说是灾难，就是说很差的意思，也可以用这个字。
So 这3个字很口语，非常好用。
对。
But go bananas is my favorite. That is my Our next sentence says, the nuclear plant at Chernobyl was built to produce electricity for the area and ran successfully for almost 10 years.
那当初为什么会有这样子的一个核电厂呢？所以他就说了，这样的一个核能电厂 plant 是指比较大型的这个工厂，在这个车诺比呢，当初它建立的目的就是为了要制造一些为这个地区制造这个电。而且呢，它其实已经几乎10年，它的运转都非常的成功。
Okay, so everybody, produce is a noun and a verb, but you say them differently. So the verb is to produce, 第二个音节. If you say produce, 第一个音节, it means like fruits and vegetables. So when you go to the supermarket and you want to buy fresh fruit and vegetables, you say, I want to go to the produce section. That's a noun.
所以当名词的时候，动词叫做生产，名词说是农产品的意思。
And when we run something, it just means to work or to manage something. Our next sentence says, in April of 1986, operators or workers made errors while performing a safety test, and one of the nuclear reactors exploded.
所以这个意外是怎么产生的呢？说是在1986年4月的时候呢，当时那边的操作人员就是那些工人们呢，他们犯了一些错误。什么样的错误？就是当他们正在准备要这个 performing 的时候，要做一个测试，它这个安全的测试。结果没想到其中有一个核能的这个反应装置，这个反应炉呢，发生了爆炸事件。
Okay, so an operator is a worker, but they feel very different. When we say worker, especially like in Chinese, it feels like maybe it's a job that's dirty or hard to do.
对，就是比较低下阶层的人做的。
没错. It also feels like that in English too. An operator is a person that works like at a factory with a big machine. If you're thinking about like the MRT, 捷运 or something, the people that drive the trains in the MRT are called operators because it's a big machine.
没错，所以通常在操作那种机器的时候，我们就会用说是 operator.
Now, when we are using 科技, when we're using computers or technology and there's a mistake, we call it an error. It just means mistake.
没错。
When I was young, it was cool, like someone did something stupid or made a mistake. We used to say error. Error would just meant mistake, like you did something stupid.
你做错了，你做错了。
Yeah, but we always said it like error. That was the cool.
要这样发音 error.
Error, yeah. The 80s were a weird time.
Okay.
And when we perform, we do something. All right, our next sentence says, the authorities, your local leaders, immediately tried to keep the event quiet.
可是当时的有关当局呢，他们怎么样？立刻马上就试图想要把这个爆炸的事件，这样的一个 event， 这样的一个重大的爆炸事件给它 quiet， 大家都不准讲，嘘，把它压下来了。
underline to keep something quiet. It just means to keep a secret. Now, let's just understand why this happened really quickly. There's a good phrase in English when someone tells you bad news. Maybe you're very angry, and so you yell at that person. In English, we'll say, don't shoot the messenger.
Okay.
So in Russia, when this happened, Chernobyl is in the Ukraine, Russia, the USSR, negasaho. And if you did something bad, you had to keep it quiet. Because if you told your boss would be in very big danger. So your boss would get me in trouble. So you would shoot the messenger. The messenger is only telling you the bad news. But now I'm in big trouble. I didn't make the mistake. I'm just telling you, 你看到那个 somebody 尿尿在地板上 or something. And you're like, 老师这边尿尿。老师生气，你尿尿在地板上。Like, no, 不是我就告诉你而已。And then you get in big trouble. That's shooting the messenger.
对，就是他是那个告密告发者啦，所以这时候就会出现这样的一个成语，这样。
Our next sentence says, so the people of the area were not well informed about the dangers of the radioactive material that had been released.
哇哦，所以呢，当时住在车诺比那个地区的这些人呢，其实他们并没有被怎么样的通知好，也就是没有人告诉他们，所以他们一点都不清楚说，竟然呢有这样的一些什么样的危险呢？这个大家都知道，这个爆炸之后就会出现这些辐射的物质，这些物质就这样跑出来了，而且这些辐射的物质是早就已经被释放出来，所以他这边用 had been 加上 PP 就早就已经出来了。
All right, let's get ready for a short break. Hey everyone, welcome back to Enjoy English School. We're looking at pages 60 and 61 today in our magazine, and we're talking about the Chernobyl exclusion zone. Now, before we begin paragraph 2, later on, after the show, go to Google, and you want to search for a few special words. Chernobyl was a special thing in history, and because everybody had to get up and leave. You could not, like they were saying, get a bag and leave now. You leave your pets, you leave your family. Everything is like, it's frozen in time.
在那边都解冻了。
That's right. And there were schools, there were amusement parks, 幼儿园, there were museums, and everything stopped. And no one has really lived there for over like 40 years now, close to 40 years. So the world today there is very special. 那个你有没有可能看 like a 恐怖片 like a zombie movie, right?
I know.
And there's no people, right? You can see what that world would look like today. Search like Chernobyl 幼儿园 amusement park or Chernobyl the elephant's foot. There are all these, or Chernobyl school, and there are all these very special, very interesting pictures. It looks like a world where humans just are gone.
对，就是那边就是没有人，整个好像就是解冻在那边了。
There's trees growing in the middle of schools. It's crazy to see, like this amusement park. 真的很夸张. Check it out. It's really cool. Let's continue here. Thousands of people were eventually removed from the area.
好，所以当时呢，因为这样子的辐射的物质的释放，所以呢，好几千个人最终呢，他们一定必须要从这个区域，所以 removed from 就从这个区域被怎么样？被撤离。
Our next sentence says, the Ukrainian town of Pripyat, there's a few ways to say this. Pripyat is the like American English way.
Okay.
Was the first to be moved out.
好，所以当时呢，这是乌克兰有一个叫做普里皮亚，好这样的一个地方呢，他们是第一个被迁出这个地方的。
Our next sentence says, people living there were told to pack enough for just a few days and to leave their pets and animals behind.
所以当时住在那边的人 people who live there 然后变成 living 他们住在那边的当时的人呢就被告知了被告知干嘛赶快打包了你包好 enough 就是打包好你足够需要的东西然后呢也不过是怎么样才在几天好几天之内你就赶快打包好然后呢赶快就离开了而且是甚至把他们的宠物啊他们家里面养的这个动物全部都要leave behind 就是抛在脑后了
When we say there, don't forget we can't say at there. 很多小朋友很想说 Oh, 在那边.
In there.
At there.
At there.
In there. That's right. Right at and cross it out. We don't say that in English. Here, there, 这样子, we don't say at. Our next sentence says, sadly, they were never able to return due to the high levels of radioactivity.
所以他们并不是暂时的撤出哦。令人很难过的是，他们根本是再也不能够be able to 就是能够，那加了 never， 再也不能够回到他们的家园了。为什么呢 ？Because of due to， 因为当时呢这样子的一个核能这个释放出来的这个放射线实在是太高的浓度了。
Now, pick up your pen and draw a little arrow, 小箭头, from our word radioactivity to the end of paragraph 1. 我们第一段的那个 radioactive, 这个字, they're obviously the same word. When we say radioactivity, 它这位 ity, this is a noun. Underline ity, write n. When we have ive, 的这位, that means it's an adjective. Write it down. Now, our next sentence says the entire area became a deserted exclusion zone with no human activity except for the workers there to repair the plant.
所以它整个车诺比那个地区呢 entire 就是 the whole W-H-O-L-E 这整个地区呢都变成一个荒废了荒废的一个怎么样被排除在外的地区，也就是禁区，大家都不可以进去了，所以它里面根本你看不到任何的这个人类的活动。可是 except for 就是不包括，也就是除外。什么人除外呢？就是当时还是有一些工人，这些工人在那边去干嘛呢？他们要去修复那个核电厂的。
So when we have the word desert, D-E-S-E-R-T, a desert, this means 沙漠, right? And if we make it an adjective, the pronunciation changes a little bit. We go from desert to deserted. Not deserted, it's deserted. And that's the adjective form. Now, the most dangerous place in Chernobyl is the elephant's foot. When Chernobyl melted down, we have the 那个第一句的第四个字 meltdown, right? When the nuclear power plant melted down, there was one place that was the hottest. That's where the mistake happened. And all of this very radioactive material dripped all the way through, like concrete floors. It like melted rock floors all the way down, and it made the shape. It looks like an elephant's foot. You can Google this, Chernobyl elephant's foot. And scientists needed to find out where the problems were. And so they were inside this very dangerous place. And the scientists finally found it. Their machines were just going crazy. And they needed to see, were things okay or was it going to get worse? 会不会更糟糕? So this one scientist ran out and he took a picture. He ran and just snapped a picture and ran away. Maybe 15 seconds. He died in a few hours after
Wow,
that.
所以他的那边的那个核能的这个辐射还是非常高，15秒就拜拜了。
He was dead. The pictures of the elephant's foot look really old, like 他们是 like 150年前的那个150年前的那个照片 because the radioactive material hurt the cameras. Even today, when they have like a little robot, like go see the elephant's foot to check it, those robots, you can't touch them. It's still that dangerous there. But there are people that do interesting things. There's this woman I saw. She eats apples from Chernobyl. She's like, it's totally fine. Just don't eat the seeds. I don't know. Do you want to eat a Chernobyl apple? No. 这个太夸张了吧 Right? So,
Okay.
Do you remember Chernobyl?
Yes, of course.
And what were your feelings about it?
Terrible, that's terrible. I've never seen that before. 从来没有见过这种事情。
I was a real little kid, so I remember hearing about it, but I didn't understand it. Yeah. All right, let's get ready for our final paragraph.
Okay.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Enjoy English School. We're looking at paragraph 3 of the Chernobyl exclusion zone. The first sentence begins, in the months after the incident, The damaged reactor was closed off in a protective concrete building.
后来呢，在这个事件呢发生了几个月以后呢，出现了一个什么事情呢 ？Damaged 就是形容词受损的，就是当时损毁的这个反应炉呢，就把它封闭起来。好，封闭在什么里面呢？在一个保护的这个 IVE， 就是我们中文翻的，好，在一个保护的这样子混凝土的一个建筑物里面。
So we have the word incident, and it looks a lot like the word accident. When we say incident, we usually are trying to make a problem feel smaller. And so it feels like a smaller problem. So earlier today we talked about like 那个小朋友他尿尿在地板上 It's not a big problem, right? It's just a little 小小的东西 You'll call it an incident. It feels smaller. It feels less important.
所以比较没有那么严重，没有重要的话，我们就用 incident 这个字。
And the word protective ends in IVE, just like radioactive, and we saw that at the end of paragraph 1. Now, we talked about the elephant's foot a few minutes ago. The elephant's foot melted a lot of concrete. It was super hot. So this is all the way outside the building, and they built like a whole second building outside of it. It's pretty interesting to see you have a building inside of a building because that's how dangerous it is.
Okay.
Let's continue. Our next sentence says, the Chernobyl plant continued to produce electricity until the year 2000.
所以一直到了2000年呢，这个车诺比它那个核电厂呢，它还是一直持续的去这个制造出这样的一个电力。
So cleanup is expected to be completed by 2065.
Be expected to 就是被预计会出现什么样的事，就是到时呢清理的工作，你可以想想看，那里面已经根本没有人住了，所以乱七八糟什么都有，所以呢他就说清理的工作呢被预计会可能在2065年才能够完成。
So pay attention to your pronunciation. Cleanup is a noun. This is the subject of your sentence. We know clean is a verb, and verbs can't be subjects. So usually we'll say like cleaning is expected to 怎么样怎么样. But sometimes we can use our little hyphen there, 连着号, but the pronunciation is a little different. So the verb is to clean something up, okay? To clean something up. But here we have clean up. It's a little bit more emphasized there in the beginning. I don't know what to say about Chernobyl. It's a really interesting story, but And honestly, it's probably a little bit of an old story for you guys. You weren't really born yet. We were really young. We were really small, right? But maybe you're thinking of Japan. How many years ago was this? This was like 10 years ago, I think, already. Was it
maybe
Fukushima Daiichi? I think it was like 10 years ago that Japan also had this. And so what does a country like Taiwan to do?
No.
This is
I
a really
can't even imagine that.
So Taiwan doesn't have a lot of like ways to build electricity. So does Taiwan do nuclear power like Chernobyl or Fukushima? Or do they use coal or oil, maybe try wind and water? That's a really important question for Taiwan. And this is a question to ask yourselves. How does Taiwan produce its own electricity? Should they use nuclear power? Or should they try different ways to produce electricity?
之前我们其实在这个我们台湾就有讨论过，到底还要不要再新建核电厂这样的一个情况。
What do you guys think? Find out, talk about it, and let's get ready for vocab review.
好的。
All right, today we got a lot of tough words. Let's jump right in. Our first word is an adjective, nuclear.
Nuclear 是讲核电的、核能的。
To melt down.
对，就是指它熔毁了。
Next we have a disaster.
哇，真是一个大灾难。
Number 4, we have a nuclear power plant.
就是核能电厂。
Number 5, an operator.
就是这个操作人员。
Number 6, a reactor.
就是指这个反应炉。
And the verb is to react.
动词就是反应啦。
Next we have radioactivity.
就是所谓的这个核能辐射线。
And that's a noun. We have the ity. Next we have deserted.
好，这边当形容词是指荒废的。
And the noun is a desert.
名词的沙漠。
Number 9, to repair.
去修
Not number
复，
9, that's a number 10 or 11. My math is poor.
去修复。
Sorry.
Number is not important.
And then we have protective.
好，形容词保护的。
Like I said, we had a lot of words today. Practice this vocabulary. It will be useful for tomorrow because tomorrow we have day 2 of our Chernobyl exclusion zone story. But until then, I'm Chris Gorski.
嗨，我们是 Bernice，
And we'll see you tomorrow.
拜
Bye-bye.
拜。